Mic. This is the mic that I'm on. My name is Matt. Hello. Good morning and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm meteorologist Matt Ritter. Right now on the National Weather Desk, Thanksgiving week starts with severe weather in the south, including a tornado in Texas.
Glass breaking, we heard trees falling, we heard a thud on the roof.
While heavy snow is expected across multiple northern states, it'll be followed by the arrival of bitter cold temperatures.
There are some big changes that are happening in the atmosphere that are unusual for this time of the year.
An Army soldier is swept out to sea along the California coast.
Sneaker waves are unpredictable waves that are higher in height than other waves.
Why did it take 14 years to determine a tornado touched down in Alabama?
So there was no way to detect tornado debris back then.
And why even in winter, it's good to check your skin for sun damage.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Good morning and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm meteorologist Matt Ritter. A tornado touched down north of Houston Monday afternoon, leaving a path of destruction that damaged more than 100 homes. A camera on a police officer's dashboard spotted the twister forming in North Harris County. And from a drone in the sky, you can see the damage it caused, ripping roofs off homes, downing trees, and leaving behind piles of debris. So far, there are no reports of injuries or deaths. The National Weather Service will survey the damage today to determine the twister's strength. Matt Doherty has more on the storm from Spring, Texas.
As the sun began to set on Northridge Street, the pace of the cleanup intensified. Officials say this part of Precinct 4 was hit the worst by whatever blew through here at about 2 o'clock this afternoon.
He's like, it's wind. I said, run.
Javier and his son took the alert seriously and managed to safely ride out the storm.
We heard glass breaking, we heard trees falling, we heard a thud on the roof. I mean, look around. The neighborhood is full of amazing people.
Javier takes us on a tour of the damage left from the storm, strong enough to snap mature pine trees and uproot oaks.
This was a big, beautiful shade tree. Not much use for it now other than for firewood.
The storm even lifted buildings.
This residence here has a whole garage that's been picked up and moved on top of the power lines.
Assistant Chief Toby Hecker with the Precinct 4 Constable's office had to shut off the gas to a generator because of the fire starting from downed power lines. The power to the neighborhood was eventually cut off completely in order to reduce the threat of more fires.
I heard like a whistle, and the wind was just so intense. I'd never heard it like that before.
A few streets away, Catherine Franco and her daughter rode out the storm together in their home. Because she acted quickly, the pair is among the many residents able to walk away uninjured after the storm had passed.
We went straight to the laundry room where we were safe. I knew we'd be safe there.
And that storm system is moving east today, bringing a risk of severe weather to parts of Alabama and Mississippi. The Storm Prediction Center has issued a Level 2 alert for cities like Birmingham and Montgomery. Scattered severe storms, including a couple of tornadoes, are possible in the region. Up north, the story is the early arrival of winter, including snow and cold temperatures. Various winter alerts stretch from the Dakotas to the Great Lakes. Over the next 2 days, the storm will move east, making travel difficult before and during Thanksgiving. Once it reaches the Great Lakes, it will likely trigger significant lake effect snow. Many places could see a foot or more. And then by the weekend, an Arctic blast arrives from the north, bringing bitterly cold temperatures to the nation's midsection. Meteorologist Phil DeCastro explains what's behind the arrival of the polar vortex.
It's not a surprise to see more winter-like weather by the end of November, but there are some big changes that are happening in the atmosphere that aren't usual for this time of the year. Something called a sudden stratospheric warming event appears to be on the verge of occurring. Basically, stratospheric winds get disrupted by waves that originate in the troposphere. That's actually the lowest layer of the atmosphere where we live and all of our weather happens. And once those stratospheric winds get disrupted, air starts sinking downward. And just like rising air cools, sinking air warms up. All of that then disrupts the highest levels of the troposphere, which is where the polar jet tends to live. It's very rare for this to happen this early in the cold season as well. Now, in a normal state, the polar jet is strong and relatively uniform in shape, makes it harder for cold Arctic air to spill south toward us. But when the polar jet weakens, it becomes more wobbly and prone to moving around, so it makes it easier for that cold air to spill south. And as we look at the next week or so, the upper air pattern basically shows exactly that happening. Now, we're starting this week with a pretty strong and pretty well-defined polar vortex at the upper levels of the atmosphere. But by Thanksgiving, we see that vortex becoming elongated and kind of disformed. And by early next week, look at this. That vortex has actually broken down into 3 smaller ones, has become extremely irregular, and that cold air has spilled out toward us. And it can take a while for these patterns to sort themselves out. So that's why we've been saying that the month of December looks like it could be a cold and unsettled one.
And the search resumes today in California for a U.S. Army soldier who was swept out to sea by massive waves along the California coast. It's the same place where a father and daughter died under similar circumstances a week ago. It happened at Garapata State Park, which is about 100 miles south of San Francisco. Jacqueline Quinones has details on the search and the danger of sneaker waves.
The Monterey County Sheriff's Office says a 35-year-old U.S. Army specialist is one of 3 people swept out to sea by waves along Soberanes Point. Amonpreet Thin, a Defense Language Institute student from New Jersey, never got out of the water. The 2 women with him did. The Monterey County Sheriff's dive team reported ocean conditions remain unsafe for entry into the water at this time.
The dive team indicates that it's still unsafe for them to make entry into the water. However, they've looked ahead and there appears to be an opportunity to begin underwater dive searches tomorrow.
A beach hazards was in effect Monday, with conditions expected to improve Tuesday. Coast Guard officials warning people sneaker waves are very dangerous.
Sneaker waves are unpredictable waves that are higher in height than other waves, move up the shoreline, just not at a beach, but also along rocks.
Tourists visiting the area are alarmed by hearing about the recovery efforts that have been happening.
All open ocean and it's big hill. Yeah, it's because of wind. You can your balance can go and anything could happen.
Yeah, everyone should definitely be more cautious.
That's really tragic. There's a lot of signage on the trails, and if you just obey the signs and stay on the trail, you can be safe and enjoy the views. It's really beautiful.
And at least 19 people are dead in southern Thailand after what is described as a once-in-300-year flood. Floodwaters are at least 8 feet deep in one city, cutting off access to a maternity ward holding 30 newborns. Many homes and roads are underwater as the search for survivors continues. More than 15 inches of rain fell in some places. And leaves are falling as winter is approaching, which means plenty of yard work. And it's more than raking piles of leaves. Meteorologist Grayson Freund explains why it's prime time for urban tree pruning across Cedar Rapids, Iowa.
Tree pruning is the removal of unwanted branches and twigs to help improve the tree's structure, health, and appearance. Pruning during the dormant season, late fall through the winter, is ideal because it reduces stress and the risk of disease. For young, newly planted trees, only dead or damaged limbs should be removed. For mature trees, pruning needs vary by species, but most only require pruning every 5 to 7 years. Certified arborists collaborate with city forestry staff to identify right-of-way trees and public trees in need of pruning.
With trees in an urban environment, they just typically have conflicts with other things in the urban environment, wires and signs and lights, streets, sidewalks, houses, that sort of thing. So a lot of times what we do on a regular basis is prune for clearance so that those impacts are no longer there.
Removing the weak, unwanted branches also helps trees develop a sturdy trunk.
The other aspect of urban pruning is for proper structure, which improves tree strength and reduces the risk of them falling apart in storms.
If you have trees in your yard, there are a few pruning mistakes you'll want to avoid.
A lot of times people will leave stubs. They won't cut the branch back to what's called the branch collar. And when they fail to do that, or if they go too far, that has negative consequences for the trees. So it opens up the trees to disease and decay and long-term negative effects. If they prune the tree out of season, that can bring in disease and insect issues as well.
And there's some good news this morning about the environment. Scientists at NASA and NOAA say the hole in our ozone layer is shrinking. It's now said to be the 5th smallest since 1992. Ozone helps protect us from harmful UV rays, but extensive use of certain chemicals like aerosol sprays caused holes to form. The hole over Antarctica is now expected to recover by the late 2060s. And coming up on the National Weather Desk, we'll show you how the National Weather Service confirmed a tornado touchdown in Alabama 14 years after it happened. And Hail No, we'll help you better understand a winter precipitation form known as graupel.
I'm meteorologist Charlie Lopresti. Look at the northeast. We're tracking a lot of clouds in the coming days, and there'll be a round of wet weather during the morning hours today. We just have a lot of clouds. This is about 6 p.m. this evening. The rain first moves into New York, northern New Jersey, and eventually gets into a large portion of New England late in the day. And most of our rainfall will be late today and into the overnight hours. Wednesday will feature a lot of clouds. It's mild with temps in the 50s and even some 60s. There's the chance for a few showers. As we go into Thursday, Thanksgiving, it's brighter with some snow showers in New York.
I'm Chief Meteorologist Gerard Bailey. Here's a look at the Mid-Atlantic region. Showers will continue to be likely throughout your Tuesday afternoon. Widespread rain becoming a little more scattered towards the overnight, and then by Wednesday morning, most of this will be clearing to the rest of to the east on Wednesday afternoon. Temperatures will be warmer out ahead of that front, upper 50s near 60 degrees except for the mountains, and we'll also see very warm temperatures in the lowlands, upper 60s to low 70s almost on Wednesday before it gets colder.
Hi, meteorologist Jennifer Collins with a look at your southeast forecast. As a cold front boundary is moving east for the middle of the week, this will bring scattered showers and thunderstorms to the northern Gulf Coast, southeast, then into the Carolinas heading into Wednesday. This same cold front will cross Florida by Thursday, Thanksgiving Day, ushering in much cooler air from most of the southeast for the end of the week. Ahead of the front, though, warm one, temperatures in the 70s across most of the southeast and the Carolinas, with the low to mid 80s across central and south Florida.
You are watching the National Weather Desk.
When severe weather hits, it can take time to determine exactly what happened in a storm. Find out if the damage was caused by straight-line winds or tornadoes. The National Weather Service will send teams to investigate. Well, now the National Weather Service is confirming a tornado touchdown in Alabama and set records, but it took 14 years to confirm it. Megan Scarano has that story.
A frightful day, and it's one I hope to never experience again.
It was a day Carrie Bird remembers like it was yesterday, April 15th, 2011, the day she lived through what she always knew was a tornado. In fact, she never knew it wasn't documented until the National Weather Service showed up at her door 14 years later.
Well, I was completely surprised because I just assumed that the tornado had been recorded because our local newspaper had published photos of it.
The discovery started when the National Weather Service in Birmingham was tagged in this tweet.
The evidence was very compelling, so and once I did a little bit of research here myself, it was kind of pretty evident. I was able to find via radar, so I was able to tell kind of how it started, and so there was actually a tornado documented that was officially documented just to the east of here, and so this one was already on record, and so I was able to dig into radar and find both of them were kind of ongoing at the same time.
Robinson also did some digging on social media and found photo and video evidence posted 14 years ago.
Look, just right here. See that lower end to the right? That's the start of the second tornado.
This now brings the number of tornadoes on April 15th, 2011 from 45 to 46.
This was in the era before dual polarization radar, so there was no way to detect tornado debris back then. And the April 2011 month was the busiest in Alabama state history, so there were at least 110 tornadoes.
Robinson says he knows the weight this documentation holds for those in West Alabama, like Carrie Bird.
It's kind of a good moment that it's able to finally recognize in the official record the damage that they had and what they went through, and so we didn't want them to feel like they had been ignored or forgotten about.
We talk a lot about deer season and how this time of year crashes on the roads involving deer increase. The same is also true for elk. In Virginia, new technology is being tested on local roads to help avoid these types of collisions. Samantha Allen has more.
Elk and other large wildlife are more active during this season, which can make driving through rural Southwest Virginia risky.
This time of year is actually their mating season, so it's common to see them out moving around a bit more.
VDOT, in partnership with Virginia Tech, is testing a pilot elk detection system. Thermal cameras detect elk near the road and trigger digital message boards to warn drivers in real time.
If it identifies a large animal on the road, whether that be an elk or maybe a bear or even a large deer, it is going to communicate to a message board to slow down.
This technology could be a game changer for safety. An elk can weigh up to 1,000 pounds and collisions can be severe.
So if you run into an elk with your car, it's going to be a major accident.
The pilot is currently limited to this stretch of Route 460, but experts hope the system could expand across Southwest Virginia and even help prevent crashes with deer and bear.
If you're traveling through those areas, be mindful that there is a possibility that an elk might come out in the road.
VDOT says the pilot will continue through September 2026. The data collected will determine if the system could be implemented more widely to keep drivers and wildlife safe.
And the sunshine may not appear as often in these cooler months, but medical reporter Liz Bonus tells us why it's still a good time to get your skin checked out for sun damage.
These days of cloud cover and cooler weather, better for healing than when we have strong sunshine. Dr. Elizabeth Munich told me of Ohio's Dermatology and Skincare Associates.
Some of these treatments do make you a little sun sensitive, and that includes when we do light therapy for pre-skin cancers. You are photosensitive for a good 2 to 3 days. So that is a great time to do it now in the fall.
If you do find a skin cancer that's below the surface and needs to be removed, you may be able to avoid surgery now through this treatment. It's called image-guided radiation therapy and often referred to as the gentle cure.
So she does an ultrasound of the area. She can see where the tumor is, and we can get an idea of how deep it is and the new healthy tissue growing in, so we can actually watch the tumor shrink.
This image-guided therapy often does require multiple treatments, but for those such as Carolyn Rudolph, it's worked to remove her skin cancer and reduce future risk.
It's so important to treat it early and catch it early. That makes all the difference in the world.
And several parts of the country have already seen some wintry precipitation, and it'll be happening more and more as we continue to creep closer to actual winter. One of those types of wintry precipitation is called graupel. It's often confused with hail. Meteorologist Brett Luna explains what it is and how it forms.
Here in Middle Tennessee, just a few weeks ago, we had a little bit of graupel that was falling. I made a little video on that, talked about what it was, posted it to our social medias. But for today, I want to take you inside the studio, and we're going to go into a little bit more detail on how it forms. It all starts as snow way up in the atmosphere, and then the snow falls through an area of supercooled water droplets. Those water droplets are still a liquid, but are below freezing, so below 32 degrees. These liquid droplets that have been lifted into freezing air and are now supercooled will freeze onto the snow crystals as it's falling through. This process is called riming. If the riming is pretty intense, the rimed snow crystal can grow to a pretty good size, but it's still less than 2/10 of an inch wide. It's usually about 1/10 to 2/10 of an inch wide. If you've ever had Dippin' Dots before, grapple is very similar to the texture of Dippin' Dots. It looks like snow pellets. It's soft but a little bit crunchy. You can crush it if you step on it. So that's grapple. I had some comments where people were saying it's the same thing as sleet. Well, it's not. Unlike grapple, sleet forms when snow high up in the atmosphere melts as it hits a warmer layer of air on the way down. It temporarily turns into a raindrop, and then as it gets closer to the ground level, it runs into another layer of air that is below freezing and has time to refreeze before it hits the ground. It's ice, so it's not going to crush near as easily as grapple.
And speaking of wintry precipitation, this year marks the 75th anniversary of what's become known as the Snow Bowl, when Ohio State hosted Michigan in Columbus, Ohio. Meteorologist Jeff Exline has more.
Well, this is a 75th anniversary of the Big Snow Bowl as the Ohio State Buckeyes hosted the Michigan Wolverines for the conference title in deplorable conditions back in 1950. Look at the conditions. Snow was falling heavily through the game. Winds were gusting to 35 miles per hour. Wind chills were in the teens. Blizzard conditions with quarter-mile visibility, and the stats for the game were insane. We're looking at 45 punts total, turned into a punt fest. Although Ohio State outgained Michigan 41 to 27 yards. Michigan, by the way, never even had a first down. They won the game thanks to blocked punts. And the coach at the time for Ohio State was Coach Wes Fessler. A little bit of history here. He resigned 18 days later after his fourth loss to Michigan. And you know who the coach was that replaced Wes Fessler? None other but than Woody Hayes. Yeah, that's right. So if it wasn't for the Snow Bowl, Woody Hayes may have never became an Ohio State head coach.
And time now for a short break. But first, we take to the skies over Cherry Grove, North Carolina.
Well, a very good Tuesday morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Andrew Buckmichael. We've got some interesting weather over the next next week or two here. We've got some snow up here in the northern plains today. Rain showers across a lot of the lower Great Lakes in the Ohio Valley. As we head into the day tomorrow, that all shifts its way to the east a little bit more, and it's going to get chilly for us for the second half of the week. So right now, Thanksgiving looks pretty good for most of us, but there will be some lake effect snow.
Well, good Tuesday morning to you. Meteorologist Chris Suche. Look at our forecast today across the region. We do have a cold front that'll be pushing south through the day. So behind it, gusty north winds, much cooler temperatures in the 50s and 60s, 70s and 80s to the Gulf Coast. And then for travel day Wednesday, a little bit of a chill in the air in the morning. Notice through the afternoon, great day for travel. It's on the cooler side. Highs will be in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. Also with a gusty wind deep down into Texas.
Well, hi there and a good Tuesday morning to everybody. I'm meteorologist Shannon O'Donnell. Out in the PNW, it is getting chilly. High temperatures today in Seattle, Portland, and Spokane, just in the 40s. And here comes a big round of precipitation Tuesday afternoon. That will translate into heavy mountain snow in the Cascades. Meanwhile, a comfortable 72 in Phoenix and 71 in Los Angeles as the wet weather steers to the north into Idaho and Montana by early Wednesday morning. And that's the scene from here.
I'm Heather Bricka, morning meteorologist at Up North Live News in Traverse City, Michigan, and you're watching the National Weather Desk.
A recent rainfall in California has created some soggy conditions, but it's been good news for drought in the state. Steve Ergen tells us how it's impacting California's farmers.
As of right now, this is not the worst time to get rain, but if it goes too long, it could affect planting periods and could affect picking for certain crops.
Snyder is also a crop insurance agent. He's been speaking with farmers in Shafter. Their grapes are fine if they covered them in plastic. Otherwise, it's problematic, and wheat planting periods could be pushed back. However, the rain is all good for other farmers.
For almonds and pistachios, those growers are enjoying this free water.
The rainstorms unfortunately cause flooding in various areas.
Sometimes you just get too much of a good thing in a short time.
Meteorologist Brian Oakes works for the National Weather Service Hanford that covers the San Joaquin Valley. While the rain may be gone, he's warning of what's ahead.
We could see quite a bit of fog developing in the Central Valley each night and morning.
And thank you so much for joining us. I'm meteorologist Matt Ritter. Make it a great day, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow for the National Weather Desk.